So first I talked about how to picking a program, picking a profession. So my suggestion is to start with what type of work you want to do. Ask around, ask people who are doing the work that you want to do, what education they got, and then check out all the different professional orders, what requirements they have, and then your next step, which is this video, is to make a list of schools. So once you've decided what profession you want, so I decided I wanted to be a clinical psychologist. So I needed to do a degree that made me accessible to the Order of Psychologists. So those three options actually, were a Master's of Applied Science in Couples and Family Therapy at McGill. There was the Deep Sea, or this professional doctorate in clinical psychology at Université de Montréal. There was the PhD at in clinical psychology at University of Montreal, and then there's the Deep Sea and PhD at UQAM. Other options for me were to do a master's and then a PhD, and McGill and Concordia offered those. But because there were accelerated programs, I applied to those. I applied to the master's program too, just in case, and I was accepted to the direct to PhD program. So that saved me a few years and a lot of redundancies. So profession, clinical psychology, list of schools. I decided I wanted to stay in Montreal, in the Montreal area. So I only applied to the 4 universities here, and I applied to University of Ottawa. I did not apply to, there's other schools, there's other options. I looked at Simon Fraser. But for me personally, I was not ready to move to go to school. If that is something that interests you, make sure that you check out the cost of living in that place. If you're eligible for student residence, if not, what is the going rate for apartments in that, not just that city, but that area near your school. Other things, what are food costs like? What are employment costs like? Employment after you're done your degree. For clinical psychology, if you get certified in Quebec, the universities here, you're immediately eligible for the OPQ, for the Ordre de Psychologue de Psychothérapeute de Québec. But my certification is not necessarily transferable to Ottawa. I have to stay here and work for 2 years. For Ontario or other provinces, I have to stay here and work for 2 years before being eligible for the Ontario Board of Psychologists, for example. So that's something else to keep in mind. It's not just the time that you're in school, it's the time after when you're being certified, say, for example, if you do clinical psychology in Manitoba or Ontario, you do part of your clinical hours while you're studying, and you do another part once you graduate. So you're either a psychological associate or a supervised clinician. There's different titles depending on the province. But then you still have to do a year of supervised hours at a deferred rate. Whereas in Quebec, at UQAM and UDM, once you graduate, you are done, you're ready for the OPQ. So that's something to keep in mind. Every province has different licensing requirements, and different degrees give you access to different things. So there is a rubric on the site of the CPA, the Canadian Psychological Association, that breaks down what a master's gets you in Manitoba, what a PhD gets you in Northwest Territories, for example, and what title you would have, what's your body, your licensing body, stuff like that. That was really helpful for me in deciding what province I was going to study in, and ultimately staying in Montreal. So once you decide your profession, make a list of schools, keeping in mind the location and all the things that go along with location. Grad school is hard. You're going to want social supports. So moving for a grad program would be cool and interesting, but it might be also really, really hard if you don't have your friends and family around. So that's another thing to keep in mind that I wish I would have known. I'm lucky that my parents are within a day's drive now, but it was really, really hard at the beginning, not having close family to rely on with the stresses of school. So definitely keep that to keep in mind. Location.